This is First Contact, Stories of the Call Center.
And so within that vein, right, as we talk about 2020, I think customer experience was critical, right? Those companies that didn't pivot in a way that they were able to still provide a meaningful and memorable customer experience may have lost customers. I can speak from personal experience, companies that didn't do a good job, and it made me question my business relationship with them, and others that found a way, right? So as we go into that evolution, going into 2021, we talk about customer relationships and nurturing those relationships, building relationships, having relationship maps. Those all seem to be trends that are being embraced at a different level of speed with new technology and new processes. But with that said, what's your perspective on that approach? What is it that you see or feel when you think about that evolution?
Well, let's be honest, customer experience has always been there. I mean, every business for centuries and more have had a relationship with somebody and made a promise to somebody and had to keep that promise. And keeping the promise is really today what we define as CX or customer experience. I think, though, that in an interesting fashion for an old guy that's seen different iterations of how you deal with customer experience, the benefit of today identifying CX, the benefit of coming up with more and more creative methods of helping people is really one thing. It brings out the passion to care. And sometimes you see that wane, but because it's so underlined today, now much of what is done today isn't different from what has always been done, but it's being defined more and it's becoming an area of focus versus an area just that, of course, you got to take care of the customer. And the recognition is that something that we do, as you know, Christian, at NobelBiz, and we've been talking about for years, which is we've always believed that what we are selling is promise keeping. Yeah, we have technology. We're a contact center carrier, but ultimately we're making somebody a promise and we have to keep it. So what did we do? We weren't thinking CX per se. We were thinking, how do you do that? How do you make sure that the promises you say are the promises you keep? And what did we do? In fact, it's one of the groups that you put together at NobelBiz, which are client advocates. And what a client advocate is to us, and maybe this will help a company think of CX more directly, is really putting the customer in our office. So customers call support in any business when they have a problem. If they're mad, they sometimes call the management. That's kind of the traditional way of doing it. And their voice is somewhat limited. And if they can get through, maybe they can, get to my office and maybe they'll have the outcome they're looking for. But what you're really doing there is you're forcing the client who's unhappy to find, where is that journey map to get me to a solution? You're not taking the ownership. So but I've always noticed that if a customer came to my office, walked into my office, and they were mad, or just that they walked in and said, you're not making me happy, won't I stop the whole world just to help them? Of course I will, right? So how do you do that in real time? You put a client advocate in place that speaks for that client, and we accept that they have the control over all management, over all decisions, with the same power that comes from the seat that I sit in. And when you do that over and over, and you take an aggressive versus a passive approach to your clients, that's an innovation. That's how you use it. Listen, a lot of businesses today they have customer success people, but the truth is they're just customer support people. But to me, customer advocacy means putting the client into your business where their voice is the primary voice.